Alright everybody, welcome to my second video. Thank you all so much for tuning into my first video. A lot of you guys left comments, subbed, and just engaged with the content. I didn't expect it to get the reach it did, but I think it just means that people like this sort of content and want to see more of it. So I will definitely be able to do that for you guys. We'll be making these types of videos up until April and even beyond. I expect to upload for a long time on here. So in quick news as well, the 49ers, they completed a defensive interview with Raheem Morris. I think Gus Bradley was there as well, another candidate. So a lot of fans hope they hire Raheem Morris, myself included. I think that would be a good fit. So in our last video, we did a mock draft, and we took some non-traditional picks, like for example, Emmanuel Pregnon, who is in the second round. We took him in the first round. We're going to do something kind of similar, but today we're going to be looking at 5 players the 49ers could take with each of their picks. And in those middle rounds, like picks 127, 133, and 138, since they're so close together, I'm just going to combine those. But yeah, so we're going to be looking at a lot of prospects today, 50 or so, maybe a little bit less. I'm going to try to be quick. I don't want this video to be too long, aiming for under 45 minutes. So let's see if we can do that. I'll very quickly go over the team's positional needs. You can kind of alter this to your liking. I would say this is more or less the order I would put it in, but wide receiver is a big one. Potentially, we are losing Juwan Jennings in free agency. Ricky Pearsall can't seem to stay healthy. Jacob Cowan can't seem to stay healthy. Jordan Watkins is in the doghouse. Demarcus Robinson is okay, but he's no wide receiver one. We have O-line. Trent Williams is only getting a year older. Our guard play has regressed. Pooney regressed. Burford, not a very good season, while I did show some flashes. Center, Jake Brendel. There needs to be someone to compete with them for this spot, man. And then at right tackle, McKivitz actually had a very good season, especially in the run blocking, but he could be challenged in pass blocking. Next is defensive linemen. We need help all over this front. I think specifically edge, but even interior defensive linemen. I think Alfred Collins and CJ West, they're good and potentially great rotational pieces. I don't think they are necessarily starters, though. However, I'm willing to see it through and give them a chance at the start of this season. Secondary, here I'm talking more safety than corner. I think we maybe could draft a corner this draft. I don't think it necessarily hurts, especially with Renardo Green regressing a little bit. But right here I'm talking about free safety. Jair Brown is a liability in both pass coverage and run stopping. Marquise Siegel showed flashes, but he's also a liability in pass coverage. We even consider like Malik Mustafa at our strong safety position. He had a great first season, but he also regressed, especially in his run stopping. Missed a ton of tackles this year. Not the best pass coverage guy either. So I think that's a position they could address. And lastly, tight end. It's interesting because, you know, Kittle's kind of ambiguous. I think Kenyon Sadiq won't fall to the 49ers at 27. I think the Bucs are a good fit for him a little bit earlier than the Niners. And so I don't think they'll have a chance to pick him. What's also interesting is Eli Stowers, who in my opinion might be the best like pass catcher in the draft. I mean, Sadiq is an athletic freak, but Stowers is might also be gone by their second round pick at pick 58. But yeah, those are our positions of need. And without further ado, let's get to the 5 players in round 1. We're gonna look at this list, and then we're going to go to PFF and also Twitter. We're going to see we're going to take into account Senior Bowl and also Shrine Bowl. There's been some risers. So the most liked comment of last video is Akeem Mesidor, and it is warranted. He is a baller. He is awesome. Shout out him as a Canadian prospect. He might be the first. I think he'd probably be the first Canadian to be drafted in round 1. I could be wrong, but I feel like that's about right. So we have him as our first consideration. We have Emmanuel McNeil Warren as our second consideration at safety. Great player. Toledo has kind of been breeding defensive players. We can obviously know of Quinyon Mitchell and All-Pro. Even Darius Alexander, though, last year, he got drafted to the Giants and was tied for second on the team in sacks as an interior defensive lineman. Obviously, Brian Burns had that insane 16 or 17 sack season, but he produced early. Zion Young and Lee Hunter, these two are Senior Bowl risers. Their stock was already good before them, though. And then lastly, we have Caleb Lomu, who we kind of talked about last video. So let's go over to PFF. Let's very quickly do this. And for the sake of the video, we're still going to be picking players because we more or less want this to be accurate. So Akeem Mesidor, our first player. Again, he bounced around a little bit. Originally was from West Virginia, came to Miami. And I think the best trait about him is, man, he has a crazy explosive first step. And you pair it with a great speed to power combination. One doesn't necessarily supersede the other. And he can just threaten the edge. He has long arms and he ultimately collapses pockets. In his first couple of years, you would see that his sack totals didn't jump off the charts. But the pressure rate is a hallmark. I mean, 13 sacks this year. He really converted his opportunities. But the pass rush win rate is awesome. These are all at the very top of his class. He is right under David Bailey and right at the same grades as Ruben Bain, which is ultimately insane. I think his big concern is consistency. Like sometimes if his first move stalls, his counter moves sometimes lag behind. But again, Miami deployed him in a couple different fronts, and that gave him experience in being a rotational edge defender. I think that he would be a plug-and-play guy in the 49ers system, and he has a long-term starter upside, especially in a wide 9 system. I think this guy could be a Pro Bowler easily. It's hard to predict All-Pro. I don't know if he'll get to that level, but I think he could be a Pro Bowl edge at the level that he is playing. You look at the measurables, 6'3", 280. Obviously, the knock on him is he's a little bit older, a 6-year starter, about to turn 25. Again, if he was a couple years younger, he'd be a top 15 pick, 100%. I think I have a couple clips on Mesidor right here. Yeah, we'll just rewind this. He also slyly is able to get in between tackles. That's a very underrated trait. Almost untouched sometimes. He has pretty decent bend as well. But again, the speed to power combination is what's great. You see right there, high motor. He can diagnose plays. He doesn't give up on a play. That was a concern with him early on. That is no longer a concern. Again, you see that rep didn't register a stat, but disrupted the play. And he is 100% a player I could see them taking. Right under him, again, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I think that, again, Toledo has built a reputation for producing NFL-ready defensive players, and I think his tape reflects that pedigree. I think he's probably the best coverage safety in the entire draft. He's awesome. Played every game this season. Missed tackle rate. Ideally, you'd want that to be a little bit lower than 15.5%, but that's not bad by any means. But his run defense grade is good as well. The thing about him is he has the rare quality of playing with excellent range and has great processing speed. He arrives at throwing windows before quarterbacks expect him to. And the thing about him is he has great ball skills, but he's a big hitter, man. I'll show you guys a clip in a second, but he is a huge hitter. Again, can track the ball in the air. While he is a big hitter, I think physically he's still developing a little bit. Sometimes he'll struggle against larger tight ends, which is a big reason that teams view him as more of a free safety. I think that, but he is a reliable tackler as well, and he will have a clear NFL role for whatever team he gets drafted to. Ultimately, I think he would pair well with a great, strong physical strong safety as well, which would be someone like Malik Mustafa. We will just, let's see, Emmanuel McNeil Warren. There's a clip of him. I thought I had it saved. I guess not. Here are a couple clips of him. Again, big hitter, just huge. He's able to diagnose plays. A very smart, instinctual player. Good ball skills. He is the prototype safety that you'd want on your team. Again, I think he, towards the beginning of his career, is going to be confined to being a free safety. I don't think he's necessarily like an Eamon Wari type where he's malleable. But I think he could potentially develop into that with the right scheme. Next is Zion Young. We talked about this guy as a Senior Bowl riser. Great run defense grade, which is what you love to see for an edge. Had production every year in college, also improved. Had 8 sacks this year, 17 hits, 31 hurries. Those are beautiful numbers. Run stop rate, top percentile of his class. Pass rush rate, top percentile of his class. These are all great numbers you want to see. And I think his value also starts with his credibility. I mean, he faced NFL-bound tackles every week in the SEC. And at the Senior Bowl, he impressed a lot of people because he's a prototypical power rusher. He doesn't have the greatest bend. I'll show you guys an example of what I am talking about. Here's like a clip where he actually beats Max with the inside swim move. That's pretty beautiful. But there's also, that's not where he shines. Let me just search him up. Give me 1 second here. His power ability is insane. Again, just runs this guy straight over. This is where he really excels the most. Just has a innate ability to develop a lot of power. And gets off the line very quickly as well. Again, he's of somewhat of a smaller stature as well, like 262. So that it's an interesting combination because he's on the smaller end but uses his power more. His hand usage is violent, kind of like what we saw in that clip. And again, while he's not a truly exceptional speed rusher and doesn't have the best bend, which kind of limits his sack ceiling, although he did produce, I think he compensates by being like extremely difficult to move in the run game as well. We saw those we saw those 1v1s in pass coverage, but his run game is exceptional, and I think that reliability raises his floor. And I think the difference between him and Mesidor is, again, Mesidor has the combination of speed and power. Zion Young is more of a power rusher, but he, I think, is a player that would allow the stars around him to freelance more. So he'd allow someone like Nick Bosa to absolutely tee off, while being a very good pass rusher himself. The next player is Lee Hunter, another Senior Bowl riser. Run stop rate, his run defense grade, kind of like Zion Young, is very good. He's an interior defensive lineman, so the sacks don't jump off the board. He had great one-on-one drills, and I think the thing with him is he's just, at the end of the day, he's a modern hybrid defensive lineman. He can kind of align at multiple spots, as you see, A gap, B gap, and he kind of wins with leverage. I don't think he's necessarily like a true nose tackle, but he is disruptive, especially in stunts. He's not a player who will anchor or win double teams, but I don't think he doesn't need to. I think his true value comes from kind of creating chaos, and he forces offenses to adjust their protection schemes. So this guy, again, he had a couple of great reps at the Senior Bowl. We'll look at a couple. Here's a quick example. He's just right here, number 10. Gets off the line quickly. Clean beat, gets his hands up in his face. He's violent at the point of attack. That's another thing to note. Here's one more rep. Very quick for an interior defensive lineman. And that is what you want to see. You want to see disruption. So Lee Hunter is another player, I think. I don't think they will. I think this is somewhat of a reach. If he does fall to their second pick, though, that would be awesome. Next is Caleb Lomu, a player a lot of fans want them to draft. And I think it's valid. I mean, Utah's offensive pipeline is well respected, and I think Lomu fits the mold. He's a great pass blocker, but I kind of don't agree with this run block rate. I feel like it should be higher. I've watched some tape on him, and he plays really well in the running game. He's like throwing guys down. I don't think he's just very solid. Again, the numbers don't necessarily jump off the board, but he didn't let up a sack this year. 2 hits, 6 hurries. I think the thing with him is he has great size, but there's some arm length concerns with him. But he's just a disciplined player, good play strength, and I think he's a plug-and-play option. And yeah, so for the sake of this, we're just going to draft Mesidor. We're going to go back to the slideshow very quickly, and we're going to look at 5 players they could target at pick 58. So here we have the first player. I don't want to talk about too many players I mentioned in the last video, but we have Max Ihiananker. I believe that's how you say his name. I studied it up a little bit. He's the first. Another Senior Bowl riser. Jake Slaughter had a good day at Senior Bowl. He got beat maybe more times than you'd like, but he still had a good showing. Jennings Dunker has a great mullet. Also had a good Senior Bowl. Zachariah Branch, kind of a Zay Flowers type. Some fans wouldn't like that. I'll talk about him in more depth in a sec, though. Jacob Rodriguez, a great day at Senior Bowl. Eli Stowers, one of probably my favorite tight end prospect in the entire draft. I like him, especially as a pass catcher. So we'll take a look at Max. And again, the grades don't jump off the chart. His pass block grade is great. His run block grade is in the top percentile. That's awesome. He did not allow a sack this year. The thing about him is he's just fascinating developmentally because he's a prospect that didn't play high school football. He came from a basketball background and soccer. I mean, this guy's 6'6", 330. Like, what the hell kind of position did you have him playing in soccer? Maybe goalie. If he was a striker, that'd be fair play to him. I think the thing about him that's very weird is his footwork and spatial awareness is like far more composed than most raw tackles. The thing about him is he's so quick and he gets to a spot. He has excellent size and length, and he improved during the season. Again, he needs refinement, like his hand placement. He draws penalties a little bit more than you'd like, but his trajectory is encouraging, and I think coaches would love the challenge of this learning curve, and I don't think it's much of a challenge. I think he's a high upside tackle. I think first year he'd maybe be a project behind some veterans. He could challenge McKivitz, but this is an awesome player, man. I really love this guy. I would 100% be willing to take a shot on him because he is awesome. Just very fluid mover for his size. I'll try to find a rep of him very quickly if I can. Here's a rep of his. He's feisty as well. He likes to get in their faces. Gets to a spot, has strong power, and has great contact balance. Like, that is a super underrated trait for a tackle. And, dude, he is an awesome player. Here's a couple more clips of him. Senior Bowl riser, is making his way into second-round conversations, solidifying himself. Could potentially see himself going into the first round if he continues rising. A couple of weeks ago, he was like a third, fourth round guy. Awesome player. Absolutely awesome player. The second player we mentioned is Jake Slaughter. Center. Another awesome player. He doesn't excel at anything, but is not bad at anything. I think he's the safest interior lineman in the class. Again, he handled SEC defensive fronts with was like very consistent. He's an intelligent player. He got beat a couple times in the Senior Bowl, but he he rarely lost cleanly. Like these were weird reps where the defensive player probably would have been called on a penalty. And I think he's very steady. Again, he's not a dominant mauler, but his floor is, in my opinion, high enough to project early starting potential. I think he could be a day one starter candidate in the Shanahan offense with Jake Brendel. 6'4", 3R3, okay size, maybe a little bit smaller. You maybe want the weight to go up a little bit. Again, run block grade, top of his class. Pass block grade, top of his class. Zone grade, great. Gap grade, great. Everything here is very solid. Let up 1 sack, 4 sacks over his last 3 years. Very consistent in college production, and he is a player I think they could take with this pick, and I would not be mad at all. I think I have a clip of him at the very top here, if I don't recall. You saw that stat. He allowed 4 pressures all season for the Gators. This is a great rep. Just gets his hands up. Again, not a dominant rep where he wins, just a very consistent rep, very instinctual rep, smart player. He is another guy. Now, Jennings Dunker is the next player. Very interesting guy. This is a tackle. Another right tackle. Again, this left tackle class, there's not too many of them. Sometimes you just got to draft a guy from Iowa, man. 6'5", 315. He had a great day, great couple days at the Senior Bowl. Let up 2 sacks this year, 1 hit, 7 hurries. Not bad at all. I think he's the classic Iowa offensive line archetype. He's like powerful. He's technically sound. He's reliable. Generates push in the run game. That's kind of their whole gimmick, if you will. And while I don't think he's elite athletically, he's not a guy that makes like mental errors, and I think he could be a long-term potential starter in the league. I think guards with this draft profile, especially Iowa guards, often will outplay their draft position because coaches just trust them. Again, kind of like Jake Slaughter, just a consistent starter that you can plug and play, honestly, right away. And there were a couple reps of him. I mean, guys, this guy has a beautiful mullet. Here are a couple of his reps. That's a good rep, solid rep. That is a dominant rep right there. He wins very cleanly. Another great rep. These are against some speed rushers, you notice, but was honestly fairly dominant at the Senior Bowl. Gets pushed back a little bit there, but that's just one single rep. Again, just a very solid player. I'll show you guys this last clip and we'll get over it. He recovered well right there. Just an awesome player. A player that you wouldn't be mad taking a second round shot, or if he even potentially falls into the third round, which he won't. The next player we're talking about is right under him. That's Zachariah Branch. Again, I mentioned Zay Flowers. The knock on him is Branch catches a lot of balls at the line of scrimmage and creates his plays with his yak. But the yards per route run is very solid again. Anything above 2 is elite. Drop rate 2.4%. His man coverage grade is honestly elite. He improved every year. He got good red zone production as well. Again, primarily lines up in the slot. That's a very solid drop rate. So I think he would bring instant explosiveness and versatility. Like you think of Shanahan offense, he thrives on motion and jet sweeps underneath route. I think his acceleration out of breaks makes him a nightmare in space. He's probably the best yak guy in the draft. Georgia used him pretty creatively. He had strong ball security. Again, you look at his size though, 5'10", 180. Again, on the smaller side, so that limits his contested catch ability, but his role is clearly defined. Um, and he offers a lot in the special teams game as well, especially if the 49ers move on from Sky Moore, which I do hope they keep him. So he'd be like a slot weapon, a gadget player, and a great return option, kind of like think a Jaden Reed type. I think he could potentially be a guy the 49ers look at. And I would mention Elijah Surratt here. This would be who I would take, but we already talked about him in the last video, and I don't want to harp on that too much. The next guy I mentioned is Jacob Rodriguez. So Rodriguez, he had a great Senior Bowl performance, and he profiles as just a modern linebacker with great coverage instincts. 49ers need this. 92.3% coverage grade. That's the highest in the class. He wins with, I'll show you guys a clip in a second. He wins with angles rather than power, an instinctual player. And he arrives on time even if he's not necessarily overpowering blockers. And just a high football IQ. I think he'll need a little bit of development in the strength department. But if you think about the league right now, you think about a pass-heavy league, he is great. He kind of almost reminds me of like a Nick Bolton type. And you think about a player who could provide a lot of value on special teams as well. This guy has a high motor. Let's look at some clips of him. Again, had a great couple days at the Senior Bowl. Here's a couple clips. Again, wins with angles, very physical, gets his hands out. Rare trait for a linebacker to jam. These are like Texas routes, which are super hard to guard. And he does a great job with every single one. I think he was the fastest linebacker, too. He had a cone drill, which is absolutely like absurd. Here's another one where he just physically wins the rep. His size is a little bit on the smaller end, but that's nothing to be super, super worried about. I can't find his cone drill. Let me see. But he's a great player. I think a lot of 49ers fans would be happy. The thing about him is a lot of fans are noticing this guy. I mean, you aren't one of the in consideration for a Heisman for nothing. He is a player that every team wants, and man, you look at coverage stops too, 27, just like the perfect coverage linebacker. I think pairing him with Fred Warner would be a dream. And again, he's like no slouch in run defense as well. His run defense grade is actually higher. He won't offer you a lot in pass rush, but he doesn't need to. Again, he just excels in coverage. So the next player is, I mentioned Eli Stowers. We're not going to go over him right now. He actually already got picked in this mock draft. So we are going to look at the next couple picks. So with pick 92, 5 players I think the 49ers could draft are the first being Mikhail Kamara, edge from Indiana. We have Brian Parker. We have Genesis Smith from Arizona. Bud Clark from TCU. He had a great couple days at the Senior Bowl. Kalen Rutledge, who's been rising recently. And Malachi Fields, I marked him in asterisks because this was a late addition. I was thinking about it. He had one of the most insane plays at the Senior Bowl I have seen in a while. So for the sake of this, we're just going to pick Max, and we'll go on to the 92nd pick. So Mikhail Kamara, thing about him is he had more production last year, a lot more production last year. I think this year, though, you consider he expanded his role, and that can supersede his raw sack totals. You'd want his sack totals to be a little bit higher, but when you consider what Indiana asked him to do, they asked him to set edges, kind of reduce inside, play disciplined football, and that naturally reduced his pass rush numbers. However, his motor, timing technique and effort stands out quite a lot. I feel like he's a coach's favorite type of edge defender. I think he'd be a reliable rotational edge with starter upside immediately. You can't scoff at the second-year production. You can't scoff at this year's production. He was top percentile in pass rush grade, run defense grade, pass rush win rate. Just average at run stop rate. But he is, by all means, a 49ers type of player. And is actually being mocked to the 49ers. Has okay measurables, or good measurables, average, maybe slightly above average measurables. I think he could be a 49ers type of player. Now we're going to look at Brian Parker. That was the next player on our board. We look at Brian Parker. He is a reliable run blocker and pass blocker. Has a great zone grade. Plays at right tackle. Again, could be someone that kind of challenges McKivitz. Let up 3 sacks this year. 15 hurries. A little bit high. You'd ideally want that to be lower, but he played every game this season. Only allowed 2 hits, though. I think the theme about this draft class for me is that a lot of these linemen are technically refined, and he wins with a lot of balance. He stays square in pass protection, and he recovers when he's beaten. And I think, again, he's another intelligent option, and these are traits that, again, often translate into long NFL careers. He kind of reminds me of like a Ben Powers type. I think if the 49ers did draft him, he'd probably be an interior depth piece who can start in emergencies. I don't foresee him necessarily being a Pro Bowl player, but I could see him working up to being a full-time starter later on in his career. Had a great game against NC State, Tulane, Cal, Syracuse. Is, again, just a solid player all around. The next player I mentioned, we talked about him a little bit last time, is Genesis Smith. If you don't get McNeil Warren, which they probably won't, Genesis Smith is a great alternative, is a good coverage linebacker. Run defense grade there's a lot to be desired there. Same with missed tackle rate. But again, he thrives in pass protection. 58 tackles this year. He played every single game. And he's kind of like a high variance safety whose best play is showcased with his ball skills. He's great in that regard. He kind of closes throwing windows rapidly. He tracks the ball pretty well. He's very hesitant, and that's the huge downside to him. But you look at his size. He is athletically gifted, and I think he'd be immediately a developmental safety with upside. You definitely put him at free safety. Again, he has a traditional setup of deep and box safety. They put him in slot a little bit. You see him sometimes get beat there. And again, ideally you'd want the missed tackle rate to not be that high. But that is something that can be workshopped 100%. And the next player is, again, another safety. He was probably one of the biggest risers in the Senior Bowl. It is Bud Clark out of TCU. Has improved greatly the last 2 seasons. Good coverage safety. Missed tackle rate is above average. Run defense grade above average. And I think he plays with physicality. And he's a guy that plays closer to the line of scrimmage than a lot of safeties. He's reliable as a tackler, which he would be a great special teamer 100%. The thing about him is in coverage, he's definitely functional, but he is a lot better in zone than man. Like, he actually plays a lot in the slot, but I think that's not where he'd be used in the 49ers system. Again, I think his role would be defined and valuable. He's a box safety, and he'd be a great special teams contributor. We can look at some of the clips here. Let's see what I can find. And the 49ers love drafting from TCU. So Here's a clip of him. Great ball skills. Tracked. I mean, just he from the start of the play, he looked at the quarterback's eyes and made a play on the ball. That's beautiful. Held on to it. That is what you want to see. Here is another rep. Physical wide receiver, gets his arms in the air, has longer arms than a lot of safeties too, which is beautiful. That is the pick we saw earlier. And let's see the last clip here, if it'll play. Here's another rep. Gets to the outside fast, gets his arms there. And again, a great coverage safety. I think the 49ers would be... I really think they need a coverage safety this year. It is one of their biggest weaknesses that I think a lot of fans sometimes overlook. But that is Bud Clark. Next, we are going to be talking about Kalen Rutledge. He's been a riser. You think about this Georgia Tech offense, man. They have, with Haynes King, they have long, sustained drives. You need to be a consistent pass blocker and a very consistent run blocker to be on this team. Again, you think of the long sustained drives, it kind of reminds you of the 49ers this season. They were more methodical because they didn't have all their weapons. And I think Rutledge, he is very competitive. His violent hands. He's going to be a rotational guard with starter potential for sure. You look at these numbers, allowed 2 sacks in the last 2 seasons. Allowed 2 hits this year, 4 hurries. Those are very good numbers. Run block grade, top of his class. Pass block grade, top percentile. Zone grade, top of his class. Gap grade, very close to the top of his class. And true pass set pass block grade. This is probably the greatest predictor. Is very solid. 6'4", 330. So he has great size. This is a guy that you would 100% want to take a shot on. His baseline tools are evident. He, unlike the very consistent guards I talked about earlier, Kalen Rutledge is consistent. However, while they don't excel at one thing in particular, I think he excels at what I would just describe as violent hands. He gets them up there. He jacks you up very fast, gets you off balance, and that is a valuable trait this late in the draft, 100%. So that's him. I just wanted to also briefly note Malachi Fields. He isn't a player I'm talking about today. I really want to show you guys this rep, though. It was one of the more insane reps I've seen at the Senior Bowl. He is a player I could see the 49ers looking at, but look at these ball tracking skills, man. It could be a downfield threat. This is a beautiful rep. And the ability to stay balanced there as well is awesome. Just briefly looking at his stats, yards per route run above 2.2. That's elite. I'm not going to talk about him too much this video, though. He can be in a later video. Mikhail Kamara, we are going to just take him for the sake of it. Now, very quickly going back to this slideshow, we are going to be looking at, this is where we're jumbling the picks together. So here are like 5 or 6 players the 49ers could take at 127, 133, 138. Admittedly, I am including one running back. He is the only one. It is Damon Claiborne out of Wake Forest. We have Pat Coogan, a center. Ted Hurst, wide receiver. Malachi Lawrence, my favorite player, my favorite edge, later edge in the draft. Bo Stevens, another Iowa guy. And Kyle Lewis, a linebacker from Pitt who flashed at the Senior Bowl as well. So let us go into the mock draft. Damon Claiborne, I don't have any tape to show you guys. Admittedly, he doesn't do anything special. I think he just plays with patience, and he has like a sudden acceleration. He has this nasty little like jump cut he does to get to the outside where he excels super fast. And he is very patient as a runner. He's not built for heavy workloads, but he's dangerous in a rotation, which is exactly the type of fit I could see him on the 49ers. And Pass protection is his main concern. They don't deploy him much because he gets beat a lot. But you look at his receiving game too. He's decently active as well, like 38 targets. That's quite a lot. And this was a bad Wake Forest team this year. He had production the last 2 years. 5'10", 195. I think he ran a 4.38, so he's relatively fast. Again, doesn't do anything special. He kind of reminds me of like a Jamal Williams almost, that kind of role. And that is a player I could maybe see them taking with a mid-round pick. The next is, where is he? Pat Coogan. So, one thing about him is he won Rose Bowl MVP as a center. I think that speaks volumes about leadership and like his skill set. He's assignment sound. He's tough. Even if his athletic ceiling is average, and I feel like interior linemen with this awareness stick around, he'd probably be the definition of reliable depth. Although I think he could make an argument that he could challenge Jake Brendel very early on. Has improved every single year of college. Didn't give up a sack. Did not give up a hit. This is considering the college football playoffs as well. That is absolutely absurd. Great grades all around. I don't want to speak on him too much. He is just a very reliable option. Next is, where is he? I love this guy. Ted Hurst. We are looking at a Sun Belt wide receiver. He's kind of the classic small school riser. 6'3", 195. I think he's actually 6'4". The weight, maybe you'd want it to go up a little bit. He's a good contested catch guy. Again, elite yards per route run. He validated his tape this week. He can separate quite well, actually, and competed against higher level defenders. You think of the Sun Belt, that's the concern, the competition he's playing, but T.Y. Hilton came out of this conference when his team was a part of it many years ago. Tez Johnson formerly was in the Sun Belt. Again, these are smaller receivers. You can't really compare them to the big body Ted Hurst. I guess like Quez Watkins, I think, is maybe the closest comparison. Just a depth guy, but I think this guy has high upside. Oh, I did not mean to close that. Let me very quickly open this up, and I'll show you guys some tape from Ted Hurst. We'll show you this quick rep. And that jab step is nasty for a 6'4" wide receiver. That's awesome. And again, excels in his contested catches. He is a player I could 100% see the 49ers going after. Next is my guy, Malachi Lawrence. Awesome player. Guys, I don't want to harp on it too much, but he is a high upside edge rusher. He flashes length. He has great twitch, interior counters. Is a little bit inconsistent, but when he's locked in, he disrupts pockets, man. I think the only thing is there's a little bit of volatility, and that drops him into day 3 territory potentially. But he is a developmental edge rusher that will be a Pro Bowler later in his career, I think, in my opinion. His upside is worth betting on. You look at the production, 7 sacks, 30 hurries. You don't find that this far in the draft. Pass rush grade, 90. Pass rush win rate, 20%. These are beautiful numbers, guys. Played against good competition as well. 6'4", 250. Decent size. Again, this guy is awesome. Let's see some clips of him here. Let's replay this quickly. Again, number 51. Gets inside as well. Just a disruptive play guy. Again, when he's in the zone, he's super locked in. Has good bend as well. High motor. He has kind of an interesting stance. You maybe want to see that not necessarily change, but he doesn't get off the line super quickly, but he is able to beat these tackles a lot of the time, as you can see. This is just in one single game against Baylor. He is just a disruptor, to say the least. I could 100% see them taking him. And Next, we have, where is he? Bo Stevens. Again, prototypical Iowa offensive lineman. He brings power, strong hands, comfort to the run game. Although he flashed as a better pass rusher this year. Again, he won't win with athleticism, but just coaches trust a player like this. And he has not given up a sack in his 3 years. He didn't play much in 2023. Didn't give up a hit. Allowed a couple hurries. This guard class goes pretty deep. Again, it's not the best, admittedly, at the top of the board, but that's like every guard class. But it gets better. I mean, this guy being a round 4 pick, you cannot complain at all. He's kind of like a Brandon Sheriff too. Again, I think you see him as an interior depth piece with long-term value, future starter, and that's Bo Stevens. And the last player that we're going to talk about in this pick is Kyle Lewis, who was a Senior Bowl riser. This is a linebacker. You look at his coverage grade, it is above average. His pass rush grade, above average. Run defense grade, a little bit above average. I think he plays fast and he processes quickly. He moves. He's better moving laterally than taking on blocks, which kind of fits today's NFL. And I think with him, he would be a sub-package linebacker and honestly like a special teams ace. This guy plays really fast, 6'1", 220. We look at some of his reps here. And here's some of his pass coverage reps. Again, these are Texas routes, not easy to guard. Does a great job in pass coverage. But you see, he plays fast. He almost has the build of a corner, like a very fast guy. And again, a huge Super Bowl riser because he won a ton of these reps. Doesn't jam the guy a lot, but just beats them off speed alone, which is awesome. Again, we look at him here. Instinctual, gets his hands up. Good ball skills, as you can see. He's a phenomenal player. Breaks up passes. This is a player that you would want to draft this late. And I don't think you would be disappointed with his production. Again, for the sake of it, I will just be taking Kalen Rutledge. Let's go with one. Claiborne was one of the players we talked about. And Pat Coogan was one of the players we talked about. So, with the last pick 171, we're going to take a couple shots here, going back to our slideshow. These are 5 players. Brennan Thompson, this is a speedster from Mississippi State. A lot of fans might be skeptical because we have drafted this in the past with Jacob Cowling, Jordan Watkins. Kevin Coleman is another wide receiver. He is a different archetype, though. He is a go-getter. He can stretch the field in a different way. Cole Wisniewski, safety from Texas Tech, another solid player. He shined at the Shrine Bowl, so he was at the Shrine Bowl rather than the Senior Bowl. This is a player I think will fly up on a lot of boards. One of the best coverage linebackers in the draft, and he is potentially going to go undrafted. It's Caleb Elarms-Orr. He goes to TCU. 49ers love TCU linebackers, so it could be a fit. And then Kayshawn James Newby off the edge from New Mexico. Let's go here, and Brennan Thompson. He ran an unofficial 4.32, 5'9", 170. So again, he does not have the size. He's not going to be a contested catch guy. Yards per route run is 2.77. He had a great start to the 2023 year, like one of the highest grades I've honestly ever seen. Had production in the red zone. Garnered 87 targets this year, which is awesome. Didn't line up in the slot too much as expected. Again, he's an over-the-top guy. He brings legitimate vertical speed. He forces defenses to respect the deep ball. His route running is still pretty raw, but once he's moving, he's a threat. And I think, again, kind of like Zachariah Branch, he'd offer a lot in terms of special teams value as well. Again, speed always gets opportunities in the NFL, and this guy is a clear example of it. Next, we have Kevin Coleman Jr., a Senior Bowl standout. His measurables are a little bit bigger. And again, he wins in a different way down the field. He wins with suddenness, and he has great spatial awareness. Again, he lines up in the slot a lot of the time, and he separates quickly underneath. He kind of understands soft spots in zone coverage. I'll show you guys a clip right after. I think he has somewhat of a limited catch radius, although his contested catch rate is extremely high. He kind of reminds me almost of like a Khalif Raymond, like get him in a slot position, motion him a little bit, and he'd be a reliable target. We look here. He had a couple of great reps. He won against Davison, the Ohio State corner, quite a bit. He doesn't have that breakaway speed once he separates. Like, he won't garner a ton of separation, but off of the snap, he is great. Good hands as well. What you want to see. This is against the Ohio State corner. It's projected third-round pick. Again, you see that jab step? That is very good. This was a great rep by him. Wide receiver this far down the board, especially with the recent successes of Luther Burden. He's no Luther Burden. He is someone you would not be mad at taking a shot on. Next, we are looking at, and again, just looking at these numbers, like drop rate 2.9%, that is awesome. Has played every game this year. It is what you want to see. Cole Wisniewski, he shined at the Shrine Bowl. Great run defender. His coverage grade is good, but his real value is as a run defender. He missed all of last year. Was on a great trajectory, though, and only missed 8 tackles. He's at the top of his class in missed tackles. I think he shows good range and ball tracking in coverage, even though run stopping is his specialty. I feel like he probably needs to add a little bit of strength because he's 6'4", 220. But he weirdly looks small. I think he's more comfortable reading plays than enforcing them physically. And development will be the thing that'll determine his ceiling. We look at some Shrine Bowl clips. Very soft-spoken guy as well. Here's a clip of him in the slot, or on the outside actually. He breaks up a pass, gets his arms out. The thing you notice about a lot of these safeties in these games are they are extremely physical. I think he could be a little bit more physical, but again, that's a great rep. That is what you want to see. This far down the board, getting a safety that's great in pass coverage and an even better run defender, that is something that is of high value and something that you'd want. The next is Caleb E. Larms-Orr. This is a guy who I think will fly up draft boards because he's a good coverage guy. He's one of the highest run defenders in his class, and he doesn't miss tackles. 89 tackles you see this year. Played every single game. Again, the 49ers love to draft out of TCU. He's athletic. Let me go back to his measurables. He has great size. He's athletic. He flashes in pursuit and in coverage a lot of the times. Taking on blocks is something that is his downside. He will lose a lot in that regard, but I think his movement skills are evident. Again, special teams, I think he could be a rotational linebacker and would be a great special teams contributor as well. You guys should keep an eye out on this guy. I think he will shoot up draft boards. Now, the last player we're talking about is a player who had a lot of production, who has a lot of production, and you don't find a lot of guys like this late in the draft. He's a high motor energy guy. He's a tweener, 6'2", 244 at edge, so he has to win a lot with his swim moves, his inside moves. The fun thing about this guy is he has a lot of moves. Like, he occasionally pulls out a half spin move, swim move. He won't win by power, but he wins with effort and a relentless motor. He doesn't really quit on plays, and he consistently pressures the quarterback, again, through hustle alone, like 20 sacks in the last 2 seasons, 55 hurries for a guy who's projected to be a 7th rounder. This is a guy who is awesome. His technique refinement is needed. I think, but with all things considered, teams love betting on this kind of profile late. His energy is, again, awesome. A high motor guy. You look at these grades, again, pass rush grade at the top of his class, true pass set pass rush grade, a predictor at the top of his class. Nearly a 25% pass rush win rate. That's unheard of, especially in the 7th round. I think he was at the Shrine Bowl. Let's see. I think I saw a couple clips of him at the Shrine Bowl. Let's very quickly see, though. Again, yeah, you see he's a little bit of a tweener, but he'll win with swim moves. If he gets stood up, he usually won't win the rep. But again, high motor guy, smaller, so that's why he'd be a rotational guy. But a guy that you're willing to bet on this late in the draft. So, with that all being said, those are 5 guys. I did 6 for a couple at every single position that the 49ers could take a shot on. They actually rated my mock draft pretty well. With that all being said, though, I do hope you guys like this. This is a longer video. I'm going to be trying to do a mock draft 2.0 later this week, and then I'm also going to include a video. I'm going to do a video of one guy, like a my guys video, one guy at every position that I love. With that all being said, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you so much, and expect more content soon. And yeah, see you guys next time.